Good morning. So, yesterday in our lesson in language, we talked about using the best words. There are so many words in our language, and how do we know what the best words are to use? We talked about synonyms. Do you remember what the definition of a synonym is? Remember the letter S also starts, um, synonym starts with the same letter as same, and that's pretty much what it means. If you have two words that are synonyms, it means that they have the same meaning. So if we're writing or speaking and we're trying to decide which words to use, how do we know what the best word is to use? And we talked about that the most specific word is often going to be the best word for you to use, whichever most clearly states what you're trying to say. If you have doctor, surgeon, or man, which is the most specific for what you're talking about? And that would just depend on what your story is or what you're saying. So when we're thinking about using the best words, often that's the same thing as using the most specific words. Try to use the most specific words in your writing that you can. Today we're getting into two other kinds of words, and one of those is an antonym, and the next one is homonym. An antonym is words actually, two words, of opposite meaning. Antonyms are the opposites of synonyms. When we have two words that mean totally the opposite thing from each other, that's called an antonym. It's often helpful to know a word that has the opposite meaning of another word. For example, if you would not know the opposite of left, it'd be hard to give or take directions. Since we know the opposite of left is right, opposite of right is left, we can clearly give directions to someone, or we can clearly take directions from someone. So if we understand what antonyms are, it will help us to explain things more clearly. For example, your teacher could tell you the meaning of parsimonious by saying that it's the same as stingy, or it's the opposite of generous. Those are two ways to explain that. Parsimonious, the meaning of that word is, like I just said, the same as stingy, or the opposite of generous. So antonyms are words of opposite meaning. A couple more examples that I have here: up and down. Those are antonyms. Friend and foe. Those are also antonyms. In your lesson today, you're going to be placing antonyms with the word that they are the opposite of. So you have a list of words and you need to put their antonym with them. The next type of word we're talking about, like I said before, is homonyms. So when we have a homonym, we have words that sound alike or nearly alike, but they have different spellings and they have different meanings. So for example, a homonym could be hair and hair, H-A-I-R and H-A-R-E. So if you're talking about a hair, these two words are said exactly the same, but they mean two very different things. Same for two, and two. These three words are all said exactly the same, but they all have entirely different meanings. So when we're working with words, we need to be careful to choose the best word, which is often the most specific word that we need for what we're saying. So again, homonym is two words that sound alike or nearly alike, but they have different spellings and different meanings. Also, in your lesson today, you have a sentence, top of the page, where you need to look at it and figure out what would be the best words to use. They have about 6 sets of antonyms there. 6 sets of homonyms there. And it could really change the meaning of the sentence depending on which words you would choose. So be careful to choose the correct word. Let's look at just a couple more examples of homonyms. If we would say something like, this is just an example of how our speaking or hearing of other people speak could get confused because if we don't know specifically which word they're trying to use, because homonyms, again, sound the same but mean different things. If we say the doctor lost his patience, did he lose this kind of patience or did he lose his actual patience? Was he just getting really impatient or did he lose his customers? That would totally change the meaning there. Let's just find a few more examples of homonyms. If we have the word through, what is the word through as in going through something? What would be a homonym of through? Now, if you think of using the word through, you could say, I threw the ball. So that type of through is spelled T-H-R-E-W. So we have through and through. Another example of the word not. What would be a homonym of not? It sounds exactly the same again. It just has a different meaning. The word K-N-O-T is like a knot in a rope or a knot in a piece of yarn versus saying, no, I am not going to do that today or something. Last of all, if we have the word dear, a homonym, what would be a homonym of dear? Another word that sounds the same as dear is the D-E-A-R spelling of deer. We have a deer out in the woods, that's D-E-E-R, and we're talking about someone that's dear to us, that type of thing, we have D-E-A-R. So again, when we're working with words and we have so many options of which words to use, let's just be careful to use the word that is most specific to what we want to say. Again, we have synonyms, those are two words with the same meaning. We have antonyms, that's two words with opposite meaning. And homonyms are words that sound alike, but they do not have the same meaning. So we need to be careful to use the correct spelling or it could entirely change what you're trying to say. Just like you talked about with the word patient. The doctor lost his patience or he lost his patience. That very much changes what you're trying to say if you do not use the correct spelling of the word that you would like to use. So be careful with that. In your lesson for today, you're going to work halfway down page 250. So you have a few pages. Work think A on page 250. The rest is for tomorrow. Remember, synonyms are the same, antonyms are opposite, and homonyms sound the same, but they are very different. So be careful when you're working with words to use the word that is most specific to what you want to say so that you can get the clear meaning that you are trying to get across when you speak and when you write. Work carefully. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for listening and have a great rest of your day.